Over the past year, I've been traveling all over Latin America as a digital nomad, living in 3 different countries. And if you've ever wondered how someone like me finds a place that's not only just nice to live in, but also safe, affordable, and in the right location, then you're in luck. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly how I choose not only the country, but the exact neighborhood that I end up living in. So the first step that I do when I book a place is hop on ChatGPT. So in order to use ChatGPT correctly, you don't want to type out a prompt like, where should I live this winter in Latin America? You want to go into depth. The more detail you give it, the better the response is going to be. A lot of people use it like Google and just type in a quick prompt, where I like to go into a big paragraph, and I find that really helps. So basically the gist of what I gave it was that it needed to be a place that was cheap, a place that had decent weather in the time that I was going, a place that was somewhat safe. Didn't have to be too safe, just because I've been to some dangerous areas and don't really mind it being a little bit rough around the edges. And then I sent that off and it's come back with some options. So first of which is Santa Marta, Colombia, then Medellin, Colombia, Cali, Colombia, Quito, Ecuador. I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of this one, but Guayaquil, Ecuador, La Paz, Bolivia, Santa Cruz de la Sierra, Bolivia, Ascension, Paraguay. Now I'm going to ask it, can you order these from the cheapest to most expensive, please? Okay, so ChatGPT is going to go into a little bit more of a deep research here. So I'm going to copy the prompt I gave it. And while that's loading, just to speed things up, I'm going to go to a website called Claude AI. This is quite similar to ChatGPT. I find it a little less of a yes man, so it'll give me things more straight. So I'm going to send that to it, and we're going to compare what it says to what ChatGPT says. Sometimes they'll come up with different answers. Sometimes they'll have the same, but we'll see what it says. So I got a few locations that are the same across both. I'm going to rule out the last 4 right now just because they're not the cheapest. I want the cheapest it can have. So I'm going to take this and go over to Claude AI and see what its top 4 is. And it's saying Bolivia as well. It's got this other location in Bolivia, and then a couple places. Even Ascension, which is first on ChatGPT, is 5th on here. So I'm going to go 5 up here just because of that. So what you can do is 2 things. You can either start researching these locations it gave you, or you can dive deeper into it. So for instance, I might ask ChatGPT, cost of living is the most important thing to me. I want to make sure that I'm in a nice condo with a doorman. What country would you say best suits that? Ignoring everything else that I've said so far, based on this list. So based on for that, it's telling me Paraguay, Bolivia, Ecuador are great spots. So you can do as much research as you want or as little as you want. Obviously, you're going to get a better result the more you ask questions. However, from previous experience, I kind of have an idea that I want to go to either Bolivia or Paraguay. So now what I do is I'm going to hop over to My Latin Life, which is a great resource for Latin America. And then I'm going to go down and find the country that I'm looking for. So right now I'm going to Paraguay. It was the top one on ChatGPT and it was on Claude AI. And I'm going to grab Ascension. I'm not going to waste your time reading everything. I'm going to do my own research. However, I will show you what's kind of involved in these websites and why I like using them so much. So as you can see here, it tells you the level of English, things to do, whether you need to learn Spanish or not. Rent an apartment, best bars and nightlife, is Ascension safe, cost of living, how to get to Ascension, final thoughts. Again, I don't really give a whole lot to the cost of living just because I don't know how old this article is. It could have changed. For instance, when I went to Buenos Aires, all of these were saying it was very cheap. However, my thoughts when I hit the ground were different. I found it a little more expensive. Basically, what I care about most on these is the neighborhood. So I'm going to read through this, as well as the Nomad newsletter. Now, for the Nomad newsletter, I'm not going to really show a whole lot of screen recordings from it just because it is behind a paywall and I don't want to rip the guy off that made it. I want to respect his work. However, My Latin Life is free, so I feel comfortable sharing it. I'm going to read this and then I'll be back to you. Okay, so after reading that, it sounds like Paraguay and Bolivia are the 2 places that I'd be interested in going to just because of how cheap they are, and they're seem to be relatively safe for the area. So now what I do is I go to the travel.gc.ca website for the government of Canada. Obviously, if you live in a different country, use your country's website, as it's going to be different for visas as Canada's is. But I'm going to look up Paraguay and just make sure that the safety is okay there. These other blogs that I was reading and that I recommended are some of the things were last updated in 2022. So a lot can happen down there, and just because they say they're safe doesn't mean that they actually are safe. I'm not too worried about the yellow rating. I've been to countries before where the yellow rating was completely fine. But for instance, this one was updated September 23rd. Then I just read through what crimes there are, make sure that everything's okay there. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit dramatic just to make sure that they cover their own ass. And then I'll read the entry and exit requirements. And this one actually doesn't have it. The Bolivia one probably does. I don't know why this one doesn't. But if I go down, I can see I can stay here for up to 30 days, and then I can get a 30-day extension twice for no extra cost, and gets me a total of 90 days there. I'm assuming Paraguay is the same. I'd have to look it up. But then once I see both of that, what I'd do is move on to step 3. And that is to go to Google Maps. And I'm just going to show you one example of this just because I don't want to waste your time. But let's do Ascension, Paraguay. I'm going to go through here. My Latin Life recommended some neighborhoods here, so I'm going to go find where those were. So it's recommending these 5 neighborhoods to go to. I just checked out the Nomad newsletter. I, again, don't want to show it to you just because it's behind a paywall, but Villa Mora seems to be the place to go based on what he was saying. So I'm going to type that in. And now what I do is I just familiarize myself with it in regards to the city. So that way when I'm looking on Airbnb, I know where it is. While I'm here, My Latin Life recommended 5 different locations. I'm going to type all those into here and just get a grasp of where each one is. That way, when I'm looking at Airbnbs, I know where they all are. Okay, so now I got all 5 neighborhoods loaded up into Google Maps. And what I'm seeing is they're all in this general area. So what I'm going to do is just check out the vibe of Ascension. So I'm gonna grab my little Street View guy, drop him on the road, and just tour around. I'm honestly not that interested in this general area just because of I want to be in a place bigger than that. It looks like a fairly decent place to live though. It doesn't look sketchy at all. And you can really get a good sense of what a location is like just by using Google Street View. So this looks like a very quiet neighborhood here. I'm gonna check out another place. Let's just drop the pin over. Let's drop it on a main highway. So as you can see, there's another tall building. Now, that was a good grasp of what things are like. And then I'm gonna go up, check out another spot just to confirm the country looks good. See, there's some more buildings up there that I'd like to live in something similar. So that looks good. You can also tell by the photos what they all look similar. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to step number 4. And that's to go to Airbnb and start looking at places. So I'm going to type in Ascension, Paraguay, and we're going to go to the months section, find when I want to go down there. So probably going to be leaving Panama around the middle of February and stay for, say, 3 months, just because that's how many you can on the visa. And now, if we go to Villa Mora on here, and look, kind of want to get your bearings here. So if you look, there's water there, and it's along this road here to the right, and there's one that runs along the bottom. So there's water there, I think right here and here. Just need to double check. There's some park there, so that's a good reference point. So yeah, there's that park that I was talking about right there. And it goes up and over here and down. So I'm gonna look, goes up over here and down, and there's some Airbnbs in here. I'm gonna get my map view relatively in that area. And then I also wanna filter some things out. So first of all, I wanna sort by price. Probably 1,200 is the most I wanna pay for a place. I want air conditioning and Wi-Fi, and everything else I can sort through on here. But those are the main things that I care about when looking for an Airbnb. So now what I do is I go through and look for places that I can see myself living in. I honestly don't like any of these yet, but it is what it is. I might have to expand my search. I only got 18 in this general area. This looks like a cool spot. So what I'll do is I'll just hit this heart and I'll go Saint-Jean, and then that'll be a place that's an option. Some of these other places don't look as nice. I don't really like things on ground level in Latin America just because it's easier to get your shit stolen. Whereas if you got a doorman, you're a little more protected. So then I'll go through here, look at places. These are honestly a little more expensive than what I was hoping for, just because if I wanted to pay this much, I could live in a place like Santa Marta, Colombia. So what I'm going to do is zoom out and look at this Jara place that they mentioned. So first of all, I'm going to look on the maps and just see how it looks on here. It looks relatively decent. I also don't see a whole lot of sky rises here, but it is what it is. We're gonna go and find it. So these two ponds I'm gonna use as a reference point. You can type it into Airbnb, but I like to just do this and get my bearings of the city. It goes down this Maria Lopez or Mariscal Lopez. So what's in here? So this is what I'm looking for, something like that. 646. This one's cool. $1,000 for a nice apartment like that. I'm gonna add it in. So once I have a bunch of locations chosen, I will then go into my wish lists on Airbnb, and then I'll narrow them down, getting rid of the ones that I don't really like as much as the rest of the area. And then once I do that, I'll message the host, ask them if I can rent there, and then book the place up. So just to summarize, because I know I rambled on a bit, but what I'll do is I'll start with ChatGPT and Claude AI and give a big description of what I'm looking for in a country. They'll both give me recommendations. I'll then go in and look at those recommendations on My Latin Life and the Nomad newsletter. Then I'll go into the travel advisories on the Government of Canada's website, making sure both countries are safe and haven't had any big things break out in the past few years. And then I'll go to their visa requirements, make sure I can stay there for as much as I want to. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to find a different spot. And then after all that is done, I'll start looking at the neighborhoods on Google Maps, then on Airbnb, and just find an Airbnb through there. I'll probably do some more research. I also need to talk to my parents when they're coming down and visit me in Panama, so I know when I'm going down to this other country. And once I feel confident that I'm going to be living in this place, then I'll start sending the messages out. So I hope that video was helpful. I know it's different than my normal vlogs, but I wanted to sit down and show you the exact process that I go through to find a place down in Latin America. I figured that'd be a lot more valuable than just talking about it. I just made a video comparing Argentina and Peru. So if you're interested in going to either of those locations or just want to know what both of those are like, then I definitely recommend clicking there. And don't forget to click subscribe.